former President John Dramani Mahama has eventually obliged Article 64 and filed a petition at the Supreme Court challenging, as it were, the validity of the election. President Mahama's petition spends a lot of time about the Electoral Commission, who is the first respondent, and about the declaration and the processes about the declaration. President Mahama is alleging in the petition that the declaration so made was wrong, and that in fact the declared winner, President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, did not win as far as Article 63 of the Constitution is concerned. Now, Article 63 says that a person is the winner of the presidential election when the votes that were, the valid votes that were cast on the day of election was cast 50% for him plus one, more than 50% for him. President Mahama's petition expresses the view that President Akufo-Addo did not attain this result, and therefore is asking the court, the Supreme Court, to call for a re-election, again, pursuant to the Constitution, that where no candidate wins more than 50% plus one of the votes, the two top candidates will run in a re-election. And we have seen re-elections in Ghana in the year 2000, the year 2008, and indeed in the year 1979. Let's now go to the touch screen and try and grab what President Mahama is saying in some details. We're going to do this dispassionately, and we're also going to do this to be careful that we do not prejudge the matter before the Supreme Court. So we start, as we did before, on Article 64. Now, Article 64 is the basis on which anyone can challenge the election. So it says that the validity of a presidential election or the validity of the election of the president may be challenged only by a citizen of Ghana who may present a petition for the purpose to the Supreme Court within 21 days after the declaration of the results of the election in respect of which the petition is presented. You can see that clearly on the screen. Now, this is the basis on which anyone can challenge the election in Ghana. So this is the basis that President Mahama begins. This is where he begins his journey, and in fact this is where Nana Akufo-Addo began his journey in 2012. The Supreme Court has put together constitutional instruments, the latest being CI 99, to sort of guideline what is happening in Article 64. We'll look at that in some detail. So let's go and look at it. Okay, so this is the face of President Mahama's petition. So you have President John Dramani Mahama, the petitioner, you have the Electoral Commission, the first respondent, and you have Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, the second respondent, being the declared winner. You can see that on your screen. President Mahama, the petitioner, first respondent is Madam Electoral Commission. Incidentally, the photograph we have of her is the same way she was dressed on the day she gave the declaration. And Nana Addo Akufo-Addo on the extreme right of your screen over here, who is the second respondent. Okay, what is President Mahama saying in this petition? Now, these are the grounds of the petition. We're going to start and look at them in some detail. These are the grounds of the petition. Okay, so we'll put on the screen. Now, the petitioner says that the grounds for the petition are as follows. So the first ground of the petition is that the purported declaration made on the 9th of December 2020 by Mrs. Jane Adukwe Mensah, chairperson of the first respondent and the returning officer for the presidential election held on the 7th of December 2020, violated Article 63(3) of the 1992 Constitution and is therefore unconstitutional, null and void, and of no effect whatsoever. Now, the petitioner says as follows again. It says that in making the said declaration, Mrs. Jane Mensah, chairperson of the first respondent and the returning officer for the presidential election, violated the constitutional duty imposed on her by Articles 23 and 296A of the 1992 Constitution. Now, what's in these articles that President Mahama talks about? It says also here in C that the said declaration was made arbitrarily, capriciously, and with bias in favor of the second respondent, contrary to Article 296H of the 1992 Constitution. Now, Article 296H says that when a power is given to somebody, Article 296 and 23, they both talk about where an administrative power is given to somebody under the 1992 Constitution, that person ought to be fair and ought not to be capricious and ought not to use that power arbitrarily. So the Electoral Commission is being accused by President Mahama that in performing her duty as Electoral Commission, as far as the declaration of the presidential results was concerned, she violated Article 296, that in expressing the authority given to her under the Constitution, she was arbitrary, she was capricious, and she was unfair. And these are the three characterizations that the Constitution does not want people with authority to do. Okay, let's get into some more details of it. Okay, so now we get to D. Okay, it says that the said declaration was made without regard to due process of law as required under Article 23 and 296. We are still on the same argument. President Mahama is very concerned about the exercise of the discretion of the Electoral Commissioner. We heard the story about President Mahama saying that there was a petition sent to the Electoral Commission to hold on to the declaration to consider what the NDC were saying, and Madam said she will not look at the declaration. That's an allegation from the NDC. We suspect that it is part of the process why there's a lot of repetition about the allegation that she was not fair, she was capricious, etc., etc. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so this is 3. Your petitioner prays for the Supreme Court for the following reliefs. Now, this is very important because this is what President Mahama is asking for. That's very important. So he sends an election petition. He's challenging the validity of the election. But what does he want the court to do? That's what we find in the reliefs that he's asking for. That's how they say it. The reliefs that he wants. Does he want the court to cancel the election? Does he want them to cancel elections in Techiman South? Does he want them to cancel elections in Asin North? Does he want them to cancel elections in Ododo? Or does he want the elections in the entire country cancelled? This is very, very important. What is President Mahama asking the court to do? Is here. And he is asking the court to do many things. So we start with this one. A declaration that Mrs. Jean Adukwe-Mensah, chairperson of the first respondent and the returning officer for the presidential elections held on the 7th of December 2020 was in breach of Article 63(3) of 1992 Constitution in the declaration she made on the 9th of December 2020 in respect of the presidential election that was held on the 7th of December. So he's asking the courts to agree with him that Jean Adukwe-Mensah was in breach of Article 63. 63 says that a person has won the presidential election if he has won 50% plus 1 of the total valid votes cast. President Mahama is alleging here that that did not happen, that President Akufo-Addo, based on the figures that were collated, did not win the election by 50% plus 1, even though, as you'll find later, President Mahama admits that President Akufo-Addo was leading him. That's not important now. The benchmark, the denominator is 50% plus 1. So let's have a look at it. Okay, now he goes on for the declaration. President Mahama is asking for a declaration by the court that, based on the data contained in the declaration made by Jean Adukwe-Mensah, chairperson of the first respondent and the returning officer for the presidential elections held on the 7th of December 2020, that no candidate satisfied the requirement of Article 63(3) of the 1992 Constitution in order for that candidate to be declared president-elect. That's the point President Mahama is making here. Let's go on and see what else he's asking for. Okay, so this is another declaration. He says, a declaration that the purported declaration made on the 9th of December 2020 of the results of the presidential election by Jean Adukwe-Mensah, chairperson of the first respondent and the returning officer for the presidential election held on 7th December is unconstitutional, is null and void and of no effect. So that's straightforward. Same thing President Mahama is asking for. Now you have seen that a lot of the reliefs that he's asking from the court has to do with Jean Adukwe-Mensah. Okay, now the next one is that an order, President Mahama is asking for an order annulling the declaration of the president-elect instrument 2020 CI 135 dated 9 December 2020 is issued under the hand of Jean Adukwe-Mensah, chairperson of the first respondent and the returning officer for the presidential election held on 7 December 2020 and gazetted on the 10th of December 2020. So President Mahama is asking that declaration and the gazette instrument. So after the declaration of the result is formally documented. That's what we call the gazette. It's formally documented. That formal documentation by the Electoral Commission in the form of a gazette should be annulled, cancelled, and by the Supreme Court. He's asking for that gazette order making Akufo-Addo president-elect to be annulled. That's an order he's asking for from the Supreme Court as part of the reliefs that he's seeking. Okay, another one. It says an order of injunction restraining the second respondent from holding himself out as president-elect. So that's another one. This is a big one. Where President Mahama is saying that the Supreme Court should give an injunction to restrain President Akufo-Addo from holding himself as president-elect at this time. And we know that over the next 48 hours or so, President Akufo-Addo most likely will be sworn in as president-elect of Ghana. But that is without prejudice to the application that has been filed by the Supreme Court. We know the Supreme Court says this is going to take 48 days to resolve. So let's continue and see what President Mahama is really asking for. Okay. So this is the other thing President Mahama is asking for. An order of mandatory injunction directing the first respondent, that's the Electoral Commission, to proceed to conduct a second election with the petitioner and the second respondent, it should be, as the candidates as required under the Article 63(4) and 5 of the 1992 Constitution. So you can see it says an order. Let's put it up again and let our viewers see it. It says an order of mandatory injunction directing the first respondent, which is the Electoral Commission, to proceed to conduct a second election with the petitioner, and it should read second respondent. But in the petition that went to the Supreme Court, it read first respondent, but we know it should read second respondent as the candidates required under Article 63(3). So Article 63(4) and 5 of the Constitution says that where there is no winner, the first two, as we already know, go for a second round, and that's what happened under the Constitution of 1992 in the year 2000 and happened again in the year 2008. But here is something interesting on this page, and that's why we've kept it here. It says the number of witnesses the petitioner intends to call is 5. It's dated on 30th December 2020, John Dramani Mahama. So this is the last day of the duration allowed before the petition is filed. The witnesses are 5. Who are those witnesses that President Mahama is going to call? We still don't know whether or not President Mahama will mount the witness box himself. We anticipate he may do so because he signed on to the affidavit himself. But he may swear a power of attorney and allow another person to sit in the witness box. He's already told us that he's going to call 5 witnesses. We're going to do speculation for the next 30 seconds to speculate on who the 5 witnesses could be and why. Let's do that. Okay. First suspicion. Let's go back. Okay. First suspicion is Johnson Asiedu-Nketia. If President Mahama is going to call 5 witnesses for the election petition, we suspect that Johnson Asiedu-Nketia is going to be one of them. Why do we say so? Because the General Secretary of the party has a community of interest with the petition, and Asiedu-Nketia has been at the forefront. He's granted more interviews since the declaration of the election results, perhaps than he has granted in the whole 4 years of his General Secretaryship. Even going back to his days as a Member of Parliament, Johnson Asiedu-Nketia has spoken about this election more than anyone else. So if President Mahama is going to call 5 people, we anticipate that he'll be one of them. Good luck to him if he is one of them. And then the next person then will be Alhaji Baba Haruna Idrisu. Haruna Idrisu has also had quite a field day about this election, leading members of parliament to the Electoral Commission and also taking a big interest in Techiman South. Of course, he's the minority leader, and so he had been interested in how the numbers were gelling up in parliament, whether that's going to shift him from minority to majority. And so he's been a key actor in this as well. He's also very articulate. Haruna is very articulate, and he has run various elections. He has a background in sociology and law, and that could put him in good stead if he goes as a witness for President Mahama, because the whole conversation about this situation is a legal conversation. So you need people like that who are well versed in a broad range of subjects in social science. Haruna Idrisu, then we speculate, will be one of the 5 witnesses that President Mahama is going to rely on. Okay. Who is next? This is Dr. Pesa White. Dr. Pesa White is important to this process because some of you may not know, apart from being a key member of the NDC, we know that he was a national service. We also know that he ran for parliament in the Greater Accra region, especially in the Adan areas. But Pesa White was in the room. He was in the EC strong room where the declaration was to be made. He was in the EC strong room where the collation and the signatories of the regional coalitions was being made. He was one of those there. It is reported widely that he had exited the room to go and speak to President Mahama or to deliver a message to President Mahama. When he came back, surprisingly, as they put it, that the declaration had been done behind his back, as it were. So Pesa White has a lot of information within the last few hours of the declaration. All the allegations that the NDC make about pardon from Eastern region, from Ashanti region, Pesa White is going to be the person to be able to speak to these things, and he's going to be the person to be able to face the cross-examination upon these allegations that have been widely and brutally made. He'll have a lot of responsibility, I believe, on the occasion to deliver the work. So we think that Pesa White will be one of those that President Mahama will rely on based on the fact that he was in the EC strong room. Okay, who else? Who else is President Mahama going to rely on? We think he's going to rely on Marietta Brewer-Pong, the former Attorney General, whose name has already been mentioned as a spokesperson for the petition. So given the fact that she's former Attorney General, given her acquaintance with the NDC's legal team and the NDC team that were working on the elections, we think that Marietta is also going to be important in this matter. So we look forward to that as well. Okay, and then Rojo Metil-Nunu. Rojo Metil-Nunu is the grandfather of the strong room, a colossal figure in the coalition of resource at the strong room. He's seen the days of Afarijan. He's probably even seen the days of Justice Ofoyi-Boateng. He's had relationships with all the people at the Electoral Commission, and he's been there, done that as far as Electoral Commission and Election Day strong room is about. If you don't believe what I'm saying, go watch the film An African Election. Is by Jared Met. Sometimes we show it on Good Evening Ghana. Then you will see that Rojo has had a big role to play. For that experience, we think that if President Mahama is calling 5 witnesses, Rojo Metil-Nunu will make the list as well. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so this was important to us as we did the analysis. Now, this is the manual on election adjudication, and we used it the other day. So we've seen the reliefs that President Mahama is seeking. All through the reliefs that President Mahama is seeking, he's not alleging that he was the winner of the election. With that background, let's have another read of this election manual adjudication, manual on election adjudication, which was formulated by the Supreme Court. And this was formulated according to the provisions of Article 64 of the 1992 Constitution. And we already know Article 64 is the article that allows people to challenge the presidential election. Put this on the screen. Let's have a look at this again. And let's read it. Okay, so it says, the question is, can the petition be brought by more than one Ghanaian citizen? Question mark. The Supreme Court says, it appears that the provisions of Article 64(1) of the Constitution envisages that the petition challenging the validity of the election of the president may be commenced by the person who had been declared by the Electoral Commission as the losing presidential candidate. Now listen very carefully and read with me as we go on. It says, in other words, the election can be challenged only reason by the person who is who alleges that he was the winner. So now let's get into some details. He said, purporting to declare the results, Jean Adukwe-Mensah, chairperson of the first respondent and the returning officer for the presidential election, said, and that's a quotation, at the end of the transparent, fair, orderly, timely, and peaceful presidential elections, the total number of valid votes cast was 13,434,574, representing 79% of the total registered voters. That's what Jean said. Okay, let's move on. Okay, now he says that in the declaration, Jean Adokwe-Mensah, chairperson, blah, 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 further said that the second respondent of the MPP, that's Nana Akufo-Addo, obtained 6,007,30413 votes, being 51.595% of the total valid votes cast. Okay. Now, it continues here, 8. It says the claim that the percentage of votes. Now, this is very, very interesting because President Mahama is making an allegation. He says the claim that the percentage of votes obtained by the second respondent was 51.595% of the total valid votes cast, that she herself distinctly stated to have been 13.434, was a manifest error, as votes cast for the second respondent would amount to 50.098 and not 51.595 erroneously declared. That's very interesting. So John Dramani Mahama is saying that according to the declaration made by the Electoral Commissioner, the 13 million, which he called the total valid votes cast, in percentage terms, averaging it against the 6 million that Akufo-Addo won, you would come to a 50.098, not a 51.098. This is interesting. This is very, very interesting. It says, from the total valid votes cast of his own votes, petitioner's percentage would be 46.260 and not 47.366. So John Dramani Mahama says, based on the declaration, his figures, the figures that were attributed to him in percentage terms was higher than it ought to be. Same with Akufo-Addo. Story doesn't actually end there. It goes on. Okay. Where the percentages of valid votes cast and standing to the names of each of the presidential candidates, and as purportedly declared by Jean Adukwe Mensah on the 9th of December 2020, are summed up, they would yield a total of 100.3%. 100.3%, a mathematical and statistical impossibility, a further proof of the wrongfulness and unconstitutionality of the purported declaration. That's also very important. So they are saying that apart from if you add all the figures, you get a certain number, which number they say was never mentioned in the declaration. If you put the percentages together, this one got 47 point something percent, this one got that 1%, 2%, 3%. If you put all the percentages together, the claim they make, according to the declaration, they are relying on the declaration made by Jean Mensah. We know that there's been a declaration, there's been some corrections, if you like, there's been a gazetting of the formal document, but this document President Mahama is talking about appears to be relying on the declaration that was broadcast on radio and television. And he says that if you add all of that, you come to 100.3%. It's mathematical and statistical impossibility. Truly, you can't have 103% when you're dealing with elections. Okay. All right. Then it says, in purporting to declare second respondent as the winner of the presidential election, Mrs. Jean Adukwe Mensah also stated that currently, now this is the catch, election results we have declared exclude that of Techiman South constituency with the voter population of 128,018. The said election results are not ready because they are being contested. Even if they were to add 128,108 full results to the results of the second candidate, it will not change the outcome of the elections. Hence, our declaration of the 2020 presidential election results without that of Techiman South. Now, this is where the fight is. This is where the battle is. So, President Mahama is saying that during the declaration that was made on radio and television, based on all the figures, Jean Mensah also made this substantial statement. She said that she will proceed to declare the results without Techiman South because there are 128,000 people registered in Techiman South. That if you were to add all the 128,000 to John Dramani Mahama, he will not be able to get the required number of votes to change the outcome of the election. That's what, according to President Mahama, Jean Mensah said on the day of declaration. Now, hear President Mahama on this one. Very interesting. 128,000 of Techiman South is a magic number. Okay. So let's go on this one. It says the Techiman South constituency has a total registered voter population of 128,018, and if added to the total valid votes announced by Jean Adukwe Mensah cast as 13,431,571, the resultant figure will now be 13,562,595. President Mahama is building the case on the Techiman South matter. He says that all 128. We have a question for him on the figure 128. I'll ask the question when we are done with his thesis. Okay, so he says that if you add all the 128, this is where you come to building a mathematical thesis. Very interesting. Okay, let's move on. President Mahama says, consequently, if all the votes of Techiman South constituency were added to the petitioner, being him, President Mahama, his votes, second respondent, President Akufo-Addo's votes, would remain the same at 6.730413, now yielding 49.625%, while the votes of the petitioner would increase to 6,342,907, now yielding 46.7%. This, as we say, is the gravamen of President Mahama's case. So, based on this, he says that Article 63 will have to kick in. Because if you look at the results as they are, President Akufo-Addo ends up at 49.62. Now, this is done on the mathematical calculation that you add all of Techiman South to President Mahama's votes. But a little bit of concern, a small matter in here is Techiman South has 128,000 registered voters. The average turnout for the registered voters of the day was 79%. I would have thought, or some other people will argue, that if therefore you were making the additions in a substantial petition, maybe you will use 79% of 128,000 to see whether you end up at the same place. Just maybe. I don't know whether you understand what I'm saying, viewers. Let me say it again. Jean Mensah said 128,000 registered voters in Techiman South. If you add all to John Mahama, he doesn't win. President Mahama said that is false, based on the figures that Jean Mensah gave on what she called total valid votes cast. If you add 128 to it, you get a certain number. If you add that 128 to President Mahama's votes, he comes up to 47 point something. On the whole percentages and the total analysis, given all the circumstances, you will bring President Akufo-Addo now by the mathematical calculation to 49. My question is, why are you using 128 when the voter turnout on the day was 79%? Anyway, but these are matters for the court to look at. We don't know what the court will do. We have no idea. Article 63.3, now that's a favorite article of this petition. Article 63.3 of the 1992 Constitution provides that a person shall not be elected as president of Ghana unless at the presidential election, the number of votes cast in his favor is more than 50% of the total number of valid votes cast at the election. Yes, 63.3 says that a person must have that. So if you don't have that, you haven't won the election. Finally, it says, in declaring second respondent as the winner of the 2020 presidential elections, on the 9th of December 2020, the chairperson of the first respondent, Jean Adukwe Mensah, acted in flagrant violation of the Republican Constitution of 1992. Yes, here ends our story. So this is President Mahama's petition. We have put this together so that those of you who have not had time to look at it, or those of you who have not been able to see a complete analysis of it, will see all of what we have put together. There's a video on demand, you can look at it. And this is President Mahama's petition, just so that you are educated. When the court case begins, you understand where President Mahama is coming from.